Good evening, family. Welcome to another episode of Epic Understanding, and I am your host, Coach Erica Love. I have to tell you that I am delighted to bring you someone that I am fascinated with. She instantly captured my attention when I saw her videos. She was talking about a subject matter that was so unique and is so not spoken to. I found myself just being fascinated by her and her journey. So I'll tell you a little bit about it. She is both she's autistic and she likes to talk about her sexuality. She's very free with it. She's very open with it. And she was making a point to let us understand that just because you're autistic does not mean that you're not a whole human being. Now, I don't want you to think that's all that she's about, because I guarantee you she's about much, much more. Hello, Lyric. How are you?
Hi, good. Thank you for that introduction.
So, I also want to share with you that I have been working at getting my terminology right when I talk with because they prefer to be called they, them. And tell me about this and tell me about that. I'm working at it. That's the bottom line.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate you making the effort. It's a shift sometimes, and so the effort in to get that right. And thank you. I appreciate it. So my name is Lyric, and yes, my pronouns are they, them, and that is because if people here have seen the flyer to come check out this today, I'm autistic, and I'm also a member of the LGBTQIA plus, or the queer community. I consider myself a queer person. I am non-binary, which is under the transgender umbrella, and so basically for a 101, anyone who does not identify with their given assignment, this is your assignment, this is what we say you are, you're sorted at birth, and usually you're only given one of two options. And if you don't feel that you identify with what you have been assigned at birth, and a lot of us figure this out when we're quite young, then you are considered transgender. And so non-binary, because really non-binary is not an option, because you're really usually assigned female or male, you're in one of those two buckets. So non-binary falls under that transgender umbrella, because in most cultures in the world now, modern cultures and modern society, there is no other options, despite the fact that even physical sex, like intersex people, like their sexes and gender and sexual orientation and autism are all spectrums that actually have a lot of intersections with one another, which I guess we'll probably be chatting about a bit today, which is going to be fun.
100%. So you said a lot just in that. There's just so much to break down. I'm like, oh my gosh. So I'm going to ask you to slowly break that down for us again. Just break. I'm like, oh my God. So let's see. Let's start off with they and them again, and then
Okay.
the S and M. Let's start off there one more time.
Yeah.
Do that for me.
Sorry. Yes, I can go. Oh, it's a roller coaster. So I'm non-binary, so I don't identify with either being male or female. I knew from a young age, probably about 4 or 5 years old, definitely preschool, that I didn't feel like a woman. In fact, when people asked me what I wanted to be when I grew up, I would say a cat, because I couldn't visualize myself as what I was supposed to be, because I knew what my assignment was, and it felt like it was just like, this is your assignment. You have no choice in the matter. You have to do this thing that felt completely wrong and foreign to me. I definitely felt more like a more masculine, character growing up. But as I have grown, I feel like there's a bit of fluidity to that, and just my understanding of how much of gender is really influenced by the way society defines things. and then, when I found, other people that were similar to me online, it was like, oh, there are words for this, non-binary, but I grew up even around trans people, but I
Okay.
never met a non-binary trans person. I knew trans women, I knew trans men. My mom has a hair salon. I grew up in the hair salon. It was a very queer-friendly space. Like, a gay man taught me how to do my makeup as a kid. So I never thought men can't wear makeup or anything like that. I
Okay.
was like, makeup's for everybody. It's fun. And so I was raised around the queer community. And so that was just very normal to me. But I didn't see examples of people like me until, I'm a 30-something-year-old learning how to use TikTok. And it was like, these are people explaining, like, what gender fluidity and being non-binary is. And I was like, wait, that's exactly how I feel. There's words for this thing I've been going through my whole life, 30 some odd years of my life. There's a language for this, which is such a relief, because then you can understand yourself a lot better when you have a language to describe what's going on. But because of that, I had been going by she, her, and doing what I felt I needed to do to be playing a feminine role was very much a character. And I'm a theater nerd. I love characters. I love makeup. I love costumes. But it was a costume, and I realized, when I found out the terminology, it was like, I have been living the biggest lie, and it's all fun and games, but really everyone around me believes the lie, and then I no longer believed the lie anymore. I knew who I was, and it was like, now how do I get everyone else to see me for how how I've kind of always seen myself deep down,
Mm-hmm.
um,
Mm-hmm.
because I was on a quest for authenticity. I really was evaluating if I was doing things because I wanted to do them, or because I thought it was what other people expected of me,
Mm-hmm.
because I had found out I was autistic like 4 years ago. And
Okay.
so it was like one thing led to another. I found out I was autistic, before that, 4 years prior to this. I had realized that I had, a lot of autistic people who've discovered themselves late in life have a very complex mask where they hide a lot of their struggles, because we're
Mm-hmm.
kind of ashamed of them a lot of times, because it's like we can't measure up to neurotypicals because society always compares us to them, and they are the gold standard, and we're supposed to try and strive for that, but a lot of times we can't.
Okay.
And so I found out I was autistic and realized how much of myself was trying to be what neurotypical people around me expected me to be. I was doing things and making choices based on what I thought I was supposed to do versus what I actually even wanted to do. And I was like, I don't want to do that anymore. And so, from the autism perspective, I started peeling that back and taking that mask off. And then at the same time, it was like, I'm really like pondering all of these parts of my identity really deeply. And then it's like this gender thing that's been like a big nagging since I was like 4 or 5 years old is there going, okay, well, you can't ignore this piece anymore, because you want to be authentic, you want to peel back the layers and stop living up to other people's expectations. Well, what about all this performative stuff that you're doing, because it's easier, because people are nicer to you when when you're socially acceptable, whatever society's version of that is.
When I talk with you, I always feel like my mind is on the edge of exploding.
Oh, my.
No, because it is at the rate that I am learning how to learning something that is so everyday. It's something that's every day, but it's not really every day for you at all. It is as you put it, neurotypical. If you are neurotypical, okay, then things just are the way they are, and your people accept that is what is correct, that is what's right. And your approach to things is, just because you are neurotypical, that does not mean that is right.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And then your mindset also takes that approach with, I feel like, almost everything that we've talked about, you know. Um, So it might not be everything in life, but it's certainly a lot of the big subjects that we have talked about. And that's just one of the things I'm enjoying about our relationship, like so much. And I think maybe I'm a little different because I think that a lot of people, how I see a lot of people respond when they're told, hey, no, 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 your way of thinking about that does not include me. I go, really? Tell me how I can work through this with you.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas I see other people go, no, that's wrong. And you're wrong. And you're wrong. So I'm I'm more excited to approach the bridge of learning and seeing where my boundaries of understanding life did not necessarily include someone who I think is beautiful and brilliant.
Mm-hmm.
You
Yeah.
know, so like I said, man, when I talk to you, my mind just is like, wow, just wow. And I I enjoy loving people. Um, I enjoy intimacy with people. And what I mean by that, I enjoy, like if you go to a party and there's like all these people at a party, I am a person who feels that energy. I feel it all. I feel it all. But then my heart will want to not just get to know people on a surface level. I'm the person I want to sit down one on one with someone.
Mm.
And I really want to walk away from the party feeling like I met somebody of significance, you know? And when I ran into you and I got the opportunity to keep talking with you, I said, boy, I was at a party and I ran into somebody significant, you know?
Oh gosh. wow.
100%.
Wow. Okay. Thank you.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And what it is I don't want anything that I've been anything that I've been taught to believe to keep me being from loving who you are. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah. I like that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right. And so I know that you've been taught differently and you believe different things that I've grown to love. But one thing I know for sure is that my creator, my God, would enjoy if I loved you. I know that 100% for sure. I know that my creator would enjoy if I appreciated you because I strongly believe the same person who created me, the same entity, the same I am, the beyond created you. He created me and he created you. And I think that's cool. So I got plans to love you, girl. I got
Oh.
plans to love you, them and they, and X and M. I got plans to love you.
Oh, thank you. I'm so grateful that, you reached out and pulled me on and then we get to have these awesome conversations. Like you see, I'm not a reach outer. So we need the people that do both, right? I think a lot of us aren't always likely to like do that. But I'm so glad you had that, I don't know, that feeling that was like, I need to make this connection. Whatever it is, I'm so glad
Yeah,
you did.
cool beans, cool beans. I would sing. There is a song, and it's called Matrimony, and I'm trying to think who uh, sings it, but I can't think of it now. In the song, they're talking about marriage, but there's a sentence in it, and it goes, "I've been making plans to love. I've been making plans for you." Anyway, the whole
You got
point
a
of that,
voice. What?
I buy so many things from Amazon. One of them is my smile. The other one is my voice. There we go. But thank you. But really, the point of me saying that is that lyric stuck out in my mind because you got to make plans to love people. Make a plan to just invest yourself in someone, you know,
I'll
and I can,
agree. Yeah.
yeah, that's never let me down. Even if I didn't get the results that I hoped for, even if I did not get love and respect in return, I'm still,
Mm-hmm.
I am so thankful and I am so glad that I stepped out and made that plan of affection and respect. I I really am. Because in order to you got to understand the world around you. You know,
Mm-hmm.
I
Oh
that's an
yeah.
yeah, that's an important tool for me to understand the world around me. So speaking of understanding, we're on epic understanding. Let's talk
Woohoo.
about sex, baby.
Okay.
So
It's gonna be a musical evening. I'm down.
yes. I want to talk about autism, romance, and
Okay.
sex. Okay.
Sure.
So a lot of people do not connect the idea of autism and sex. You did that.
Oh, definitely.
All right.
In many
So
ways.
yeah, okay. In many ways, tell me about that, and tell me about that journey for you. But first, tell me and tell us how it is that you discovered that you were autistic.
Oh yeah. So I knew my whole life I was different, and I knew I was struggling. If you struggle with things that other people take for granted and think are simple, you
Mm,
notice when you can't do things that other people say are easy, and you
right.
you feel bad about that, especially when you don't have a label for it. Like I went around
Okay.
my whole life feeling like I was inferior, broken, neurotypical person until I was
Mm,
29.
okay.
And so at 29, a few years into working at what I thought was this dream corporate job I had landed, we moved
Mhm.
into a new physical space and the sensory environment changed.
Okay.
And my physical health started to decline. And then at the same time, I was doing a lot of recruiting and hiring people that were basically the opposite of me. I had realized I need to hire the opposite of me to be successful in this company in every way, shape, and form. And anyone I liked or clicked with was going to get laid off. And it was like, wow, that was really disheartening because then I was masking even harder because I felt like I was undesirable for this position and I needed to try harder to be, what I knew because I was selecting talent, what desirable was. So I was trying to be this, ideal candidate that we looked to hire. And I really was just breaking myself. I was breaking myself mentally, spiritually, emotionally. My social anxiety was, it goes up and down depending on triggers. It was out of control, and my self-esteem was in the toilet. And I got to the point where I just didn't, know if I wanted to continue just life in general anymore. I was like fantasizing really heavily about driving my car off the bridge on the way home from work because it just seemed so helpless.
Mm,
And I kept going to my doctor because I was losing weight. I wasn't eating. Food had become completely unappetizing to me. I couldn't really eat or keep food down. I was having regular migraines almost every day, and I was having
mm,
seizures. I didn't know there were seizures yet at the time, and we are just trying to figure out what's wrong with me. What's wrong with me? And the doctor's like, "There's nothing physically wrong with you. I don't, what? Go. We're going to refer you out for a mental health assessment. We think it's
okay.
anxiety or something like that." And I was like, okay, because I told you it wasn't my stomach, a while ago, because I've gone through this before in my life as a child and as a teenager. And so I now know that it was autistic burnout. I was just burnt out from trying to hold myself to those neurotypical standards. And it's a common enough phenomenon that it's well known, studied, and named. But in children, you hear it called a regression sometimes. Autistic children regress. They kind of, so it's the same phenomenon. It's just when we're adults, we call it something different, but it's the same symptoms of losing skills and getting sick and not being able to keep up with things, and our functioning sliding down, because our functioning actually can be quite fluid. This is kind of why functioning labels don't work, but all of that was going on, and when I was referred out to a mental health assessment, I was diagnosed with autism and social anxiety at 29. And
Mm,
the big turning point for me, and I'm so grateful for this because it easily could have gone the other direction, was me in the office, on the second appointment after, because it was a big, long process, going through old baby videos and interviewing grandparents and people that knew me growing up, things like that. At the end of it, like with this paper, this really long report, and I'm like, oh, this is what's wrong with me. And the doctor's stops me and she's like, no, there's nothing wrong with you. Your brain
Okay.
works differently. And now you need to learn how to, like, I don't remember, something in the nature of like work with yourself, not against yourself, or learn how to work with that or something. Like, I was kind of maybe almost in shock, I think, a little bit in this doctor's
Mhm.
appointment. It's a lot to take in. And, going through that process, I was 29, I was about to be 30 in just a few months after that. Like, I went through the whole spectrum of the full, the stages of grief, like all of those emotions,
Okay.
because it was just such, it's just such a big thing to really process. Like, it changed my life though, because once it sunk in and I reached that acceptance stage, that is
Mhm.
what people are trying to get to, I was able to really apply that and what it meant to me. And I stopped comparing myself to neurotypical people and realized that they aren't the gold standard. And that set me free, because it's not fair to ask a fish to climb a tree or a dog to breathe underwater. You wouldn't punish a dog for not being able to breathe underwater, or the fish for not being able to climb a tree. And I realized, oh, I'm not a fish. I can't breathe underwater.
Mhm.
It's
Mhm.
not my fault. Or the ugly duckling story, a very real life version of it. And it let me develop something that I hadn't had my whole life, which was self-compassion, because I had a lot of compassion for other people, and which is really sad, but I needed to understand this bit about myself to fix that wound, I guess, because that was a big wound to repair.
Wow. And so you thought of yourself as an ugly duckling.
Oh yeah,
Mm.
because when you struggle very hard with things that other people think are simple, like those ways in which you are inferior
Mhm.
overshadow you. Because just think about, like, if you have an artwork or anything you do, like how we are tending to be more focused on our mistakes, and we like can get really fixated on the mistakes and all
Right.
the ways we want to do better. And it's like that overshadowed all of the awesome things about me, because I couldn't appreciate any of my skills because I was too focused on what I thought was wrong with me and how I thought I didn't measure up to people around me. So it didn't matter that I had a college reading level at elementary school. None of the things that were like kind of neat mattered. It didn't matter that I, could roller skate. It didn't matter. Nothing mattered, because I just hated
Mm.
myself so much.
Wow. Let's talk about your power. Let's talk about your power because you do have some superpowers.
Oh gosh, I don't know about that.
You don't think so? You just told us that you were reading at a college level when you were just a kid.
Well, but it's, it comes, all of those things are double-sided coins. It's like a monkey's paw almost, where it takes something away when you're given something, where it's like,
Right.
I was reading, when I was 1.5, I taught myself to read. And then by, at elementary school, I was already reading at a college level. But then because of that, I had that really complex vocabulary, and I spoke in complete sentences like a little professor. Like, people thought I was a lot more mature than I really was, but I was actually very immature in a lot of ways, had really bad impulse control, was very hyperactive, had a lot of anxiety. And because people thought I was so mature for my age, or so smart because I
Mhm.
had a good reading level, um, that if I struggled, people thought I was just being difficult. If I was anxious about something, people you thought I was making excuses. And so, like, you're too smart for this, things like that. Like my grandpa, one story, I remember I took things very literally. And so whenever I would take something literally, people would think I was being a smart aleck. So smart aleck is one of my nicknames growing up. So it's like my grandpa's like, I'm going to draw you a bath. So I went and got him a pencil and a paper. And they still
Oh.
tell the story. They thought I was making a joke. They thought I was being funny, but he said he was going to draw me a bath, literal,
Right.
thinking literal. But I would say things like this would happen all the time. And when people perceive you as being gifted in some way, they tend to ignore the ways you struggle. So when I had a
Mhm.
problem, it was like, well, you're just being lazy, you're not applying yourself. So like I didn't get help because I had that giftedness, so it's like, it's like everything that seems like a
Wow.
gift, my ability to learn things comes from an obsessiveness that it's a really great skill. But the obsessiveness means if I get obsessed with something I don't want, like I can't let go, and it's not constructive to my health, that obsessiveness is equally a curse, even though it's my biggest skill. And it means I teach myself to do really cool things that a lot of people can't teach themselves to do. And I can be expert level at some really random things. Like if I'm obsessed about the wrong thing, it sucks. Or like if I need to learn something and I can't get it to catch my interest, I can sit and read it over and over and over and over again, and it's just not going to sink in my brain. Just like, nope, which doesn't work well in school, you
Right.
know?
I'm curious, how were you as in a recruiter? Did you meet your quotas a lot, or how did that work?
So we didn't have quotas. What we are, the company, without giving away too much, was highly desirable in the industry we were in. And so like we had so many resumes coming in that it was me and someone that still is a friend of mine even to this day, has been for a lot of years. We were a tag team, and so like we did like 700 resumes a year
Okay.
that we
Okay.
sorted to through, and like would eliminate together and interview and present options to the team. And it was really like out of the 700 we would sort through, god, I think only less than 5 to 10 were hired any given year.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense.
So it
Um,
was like really high end, very specific, very neurotypical, very
okay.
neurotypical,
Mhm.
very discriminatory against neurodivergent people. Actually, like when I found out I was autistic, I realized it was like basically the checklist of things I was avoiding hiring was neurodivergent people, autistic
Mm,
people. It was like, wow. And that really blew my mind. I was really mad at the world when I realized that so many things that you try to screen out sometimes just by the way the process is set up can be discriminatory for people who are different, or people who have mental health issues, or just someone who's anxious about the
mhm,
pressure of an interview. Like your best employee ever might be really anxious and not be able to show themselves off in a job interview, but that doesn't mean they're not a fantastic employee, but you passed them up because they were too nervous to look you in the, or they didn't look you in the eye, or they were nervous, or they were uncomfortable. Uh, and people, would miss out on that talent, because you're looking for someone who is a good interviewee instead of someone who's a good employee. And the
mhm,
most manipulative people can be really good at acing job interviews,
mhm.
you
I
know?
agree with that. So I have a background in recruitment, specifically in physician recruitment, and then it expanded to other healthcare disciplines as well as, C-level professionals. So I am gifted in the art of courtship
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
because, right, I recruit people who are highly desirable.
Hmm.
So my end of the spectrum was, kind of flipped. I would have jobs that only a very few people were a fit for.
Hmm.
You
We have
know,
one of those every now and then, you know?
okay,
Yeah.
okay. So, yeah, that's why I asked that question because when I was thinking about my recruitment experience and what it took a lot of refinement of just dealing with people and understanding people's perspective, and for lack of a better word, courting them to make them understand that the job I had, the position I had, was the right fit and selection for them, regardless of pay, because people think that
Hmm.
recruitment is about pay. It's never about pay. You just have to have enough for the person to maintain their lifestyle.
Yeah.
Hmm. That's what that you need enough money for that, and then everything else. goes from there.
Mm-hmm. And you know, I'd say that my experience is so many things that were done in that time period were done wrong and have made me want to completely flip the script on how people recruit and hire people, because a lot of corporations have lost the human or the humanity in their human resources, and the people are the greatest resources. And if we treat people like machines and exploit them, you know, they're going to fall apart. It doesn't work, and that's why people are burnt out and people aren't willing to work for nothing anymore. You know, people, we've been living in a global pandemic, so you know, people have literally had death and loss and maybe fear.
Yes.
And the value of life is now so painfully obvious to so many of us that we're now like, no, I'm not going to go flip burgers. I'd rather be poor than work and give you my soul, you know? And so employers are going to have to fix it. Employers are going to have to fix it. They're going to have to start treating people better and paying people to have time off and letting people prioritize their families. Because at this company, you know, for example, at the holiday party, the boss is thanking our significant others for us basically never spending time with them because we didn't have time because we all worked too much. Wow. It's like, I am so lucky our relationship survived that, but we are still recovering from, you know, my 5 years in that company where I had to completely neglect our relationship. And that's a setback. That's like a major sacrifice because my emotions were too exhausted by this corporate job. It was like soul sucking. It was soul sucking.
Wow.
You know, it's like all of that. It's just really fueled me into like, we got to fix the workplaces.
You know what? I think it would be fun if you and I had a conversation specifically about making the workplace better for people who are neurodivergent.
Oh yeah, I'm writing a book about that right now. I mean, I'm putting it all in a book. That's why I'm like taking very few appointments through the rest of the year, and my January is already full now because I'm blocking off time every day to get this book out, because I outlined the book and everything that would go in it over a year ago when I lost my job from the consulting firm I was working in as VP of marketing. And I still love them so much. Speaking of love, like we were trying to bring love back to the workplace. And my old boss, I picked my dream boss. I picked her myself. And she became the boss of the company. She still owns the company. We all cried together, you know, and we've helped each other, and we still help each other now. You know, we kind of worked together at a conference recently, and I helped her session, and she helped me with my session, and we're still going to be close. You know, even though she fired me, and I said, and I had told her, you know, once upon a time, because I saw her lay someone off, and I said, if I ever have to get laid off, I want you to lay me off. And she was the first person to lay me off since the last economy crash in 2008. That was the other time I've been laid off, only twice. But I was, and that the other time was the opposite. It was big global computer tech company. My manager didn't even know I'd been let go. It was some HR person I'd never met came down to let me know because they had forgot to tell me on Friday, and I showed up on Monday.
So my gosh.
Complete opposite experience, because I wasn't a person. I was a number, because there's no love.
Absolutely no love. And I would be remiss if I didn't talk about the gentleman who fired 900 people at once.
Oh my God. Yeah.
Over Zoom. In which they really couldn't respond to. Like, it was recorded by someone just because they were trying to record the meeting so they could have a better understanding of it. But it just so happened that this person recorded their firing along with 900 other people.
Oh my God.
Amazing.
I mean, there was probably that many that was laid off, you know, in the crash of 2008. But you know what the thing is like they use the economy crash as the excuse for it. But I kind of was shooting myself in the foot for not seeing it coming, because for months we had been moving the computer manufacturing overseas.
Okay.
So we had been moving stuff to Asia. So we knew they were going to close things down. And then once the economy crashed in 2008, they had their excuse, you know, and then they just pulled out the rug. And I mean, hundreds of us, I'm sure. I don't know how many were fired, but it wasn't over Zoom because Zoom wasn't popular back then. This was a lot of years ago.
Very true. I wish so much that we could have a culture that believed that we didn't fire people during this season. You know, um, I would just say maybe from November 1st to January 1st, maybe culturally, we decided.
Nobody's hiring in that season. That's what pushed me last time into deciding to work on consulting on my own. So I guess I'm glad it happened, but I lost my job at the end of September, like the 28th or something.
Right. And I'm anything, if there is something bad happening to you, even the worst of the worst, and I'm speaking from my experience, I just believe I've noticed that there is something for you in that, even if it's
Oh
growth,
yeah.
right? It might be growth. You might discover a new talent. You might even just find out that you can be stronger and that you are strong enough to get through this, whatever your this is. It doesn't take away the pain, but
Oh
there is
yeah.
something there for you. So you're a person like me that somebody gave you lemons and you was like, okay, lemonade, baby.
Well, there's an added level to this that I kind of forgot to mention, which is kind of funny, is I was laid off most recently from a company we were building together, and I still so much love, like I said, but I was laid off on a Monday, I believe, and the Sunday night before, I had literally been out in my yard, just kind of walking around, enjoying the fall air because it was September, early fall, and thinking to myself that I really just needed a change. And, I just was just kind of asking the universe for this change. And then I got laid off the next afternoon, and it was like, yeah, I cried because it was like, I love these people. And so it's like going through a breakup, when we really were like this family. But then after it was over, within 24 hours, I was like, I can't even be mad because it's like, you wish for the wish with the genie. And if you don't say your wish right, or you don't know, what you wish for, I'm just like, I asked the universe.
And family, just as so you know what, Lyric, sometimes you're freezing and that's okay. I just appreciate everybody's patience for
Oh,
when you're freezing. No, it's okay because you're worth it. It's worth it. It's so
I
worth
don't know why it's doing that, but thank you for your patience.
Yes, it is fine. So I want to talk about, first of all, I'm going to say this. I'm getting her back, guys. No, I'm getting them back, guys. I'm getting them back, guys.
I'll be
So
back.
yes, we have to talk about more about employment. This is going to be
Oh,
so
yeah.
good.
Oh,
I
that's my jam.
Yes, I think that you should come back and really talk about your book. Maybe give some direct advice. You don't have to throw a PowerPoint, but if you had like a one sheeter or something you wanted us to kind of point to, while you were explaining some things, that would be really, really cool. I can nerd up on some stuff. I
Fun.
I can definitely do that, and I think our community could, learn how to really embrace the talents of those who are neurodivergent.
Oh, yeah.
For sure.
Yeah. And we're
Um,
probably in your workforce now and you just don't even know it, like I didn't figure out until I was 29. I'd been in the workforce for over 15 years already at that point when I figured it out. And they think it's 1 in 8 are neurodivergent. That's autism, ADHD, OCD, like dyslexia. There's like a bunch of things in that umbrella. So like 1 in 8, and that might be, it's probably higher because even the autism numbers were just bumped up recently to 1 in 44, and I think it was 1 in 56. So we're everywhere, but we're invisible, and some of us might not even know we're autistic.
but I think that's the part I want to really focus on, because if people are there and you're not acknowledging them, and for that matter, if the person doesn't know it, then you might be throwing the baby out with the bathwater and losing out on a great gift.
Oh yeah. And a lot of things are just set up, especially in business and organizational structures in general, just because they're set up by neurotypical people, can be very harmful to neurodivergent people for a lot of different reasons. And it's like we need to be willing to kind of challenge things and be willing to do things differently, think different, because The companies that don't make these changes, I think, are going to be the ones that fail or start to have a difficulty staffing, because the things that neurodivergent people need to be able to thrive in the workplace, what I've learned, are a lot of times things that everyone else actually wants too, which is also why sometimes we get resistance. Because the reason I ended up leaving, a couple jobs back when I found out I was autistic, when I went to go and try and get my needs met, my employer, I had this, some things that I thought would help improve my health, stop the migraines, stop the seizures, help me get back to, gain 20 pounds back that I lost. And my HR person said, well, those are really things that everyone else would like to have, and it's not really fair to give that to you. One of the things I asked is if I could sit, in the closer to the window and kind of quiet corner. And I was told that that was a space that was earned by someone who was like a leadership position. So I couldn't sit next to the windows because, that wouldn't be fair, because I wasn't a manager, and all these things, like why it wasn't fair to treat me special. But it's like, okay, everybody wants natural light. Everybody hates your fluorescent lighting. Everybody hates your open office. It's too busy, too loud. Nobody can concentrate. Maybe you should fix your office.
Right. You know what? Poo-poo on the open office and all that racket. No, employers, stop it, stop it, stop it.
Please stop. Please. Like, you can have collaborative spaces so people can go collaborate and make their noise, but so many people need focus work. And we're starting to see that multitasking in most instances is a myth unless you're doing something that is not require any thinking,
Right. We need the space to both collaborate and to brainstorm, but we also need the space to be reflective so that we can actually get something done.
Yes.
Exactly. From those great ideas that we had during the brainstorming collaborative session. But anyway, so hopefully someone gets something out of at least that piece for sure. I want to talk more about, I want to get to this question. Tell me how you decided to talk about sexuality and autism, and where is that taking you? What roads have taken you down?
Well, when I came out non-binary only after I found out I was autistic, but I knew that I was queer and I was attracted to people regardless of their gender, even when I was in middle school. I knew that I didn't see relationships in the traditional way since I was very young. Like a lot of things, I'm autistic, so part of that is like social structures, social hierarchy, social norms, and social constructs don't make a lot of logical sense to me a lot of times. So like gender doesn't make a lot of sense. Conventional sexual orientations, only liking the opposite, whatever gender, that didn't make sense to me. Why, I was like, other animals are not monogamous except for very rare occasions. Why are humans so insistent that we have to be monogamous when everybody is cheating on everyone else around me? Like all of these things.
Gosh.
I'm a little kid thinking about these like things because I'm just like, that doesn't make sense. That doesn't make sense. That, like, my driving force as a human since I was very young, and one of my very first words was, why? Which is really annoying for a parent because I'm walking around going, why? Which, but I can't do anything without knowing why behind what I'm doing. Like I see something and I love that I have Google on my phone now because I have to know. I Google everything because I have to know why. Like it is so essential to me. So it's like I question things, I question everything. And so sexual orientation and gender and those things were just part of it. And so I knew I was queer from a very young age. And when I started, after I found out I was autistic, getting on social media and chatting with other autistic people on the internet, I started to notice that there was a lot of us who were queer. And what I noticed, which was even more shocking and something that for the first time in my life I'd ever experienced, was the straight cis people seem to be in the minority in autistic people. Like more of us, at least online, were also gay, trans, bisexual, asexual. We fell outside of gender and social sexuality like
I wonder
constructs.
if there's a study on that. That would
Oh
be
yeah, there have been a few. I can't think of off the top of my head, but there have been a few. Like I don't remember the exact number, but it's like autistic people are more likely to be trans. It's been known for a while. Like when people come out, like in Europe, if they are trans and they're going through therapy or anything, they will often also test them for being autistic because they know trans people are more likely to be autistic. We don't see as much of this talked about in America, but there have been some studies I've shared because I was excited about them when I found them, but nothing this year. But it's just more likely. It makes sense because, you know, like I said, I see like social constructs and I go, yeah, no thanks, that doesn't fit me. Like, you know.
So I just, you know, for those who like me, I like stuff to be repeated. I want to be really clear. So what we're saying is there are studies that have shown that if you are autistic, you are also more likely to be trans. Did I get that right?
Autistic people are more likely to be transgender or gender nonconforming specifically.
Okay.
So, or we don't conform to gender norms. So it's just more likely. And it's not that all, because there are straight cis autistic people, they exist, you know, they're out there. But it's just like, you know, I like, for example, I did a Twitter poll and I asked on, and it's not scientific, it's a Twitter poll, but you know, in the fall of 2020, when I was locked up and bored, I said, hey, how many of you out there in Twitter who are autistic also consider yourselves members of the LGBTQIA plus umbrella? So that's gay, bisexual, lesbian, you know, trans, all of it. And it was like 3,600 and some odd votes of autistic people. And it was just a yes or no question. Do you consider yourself part of this community or this umbrella? Yes or no? And it was like 75.6% in my audience said they consider themselves LGBTQIA, and only like 24 point something percent said they didn't consider themselves in that umbrella.
That's very interesting.
And, you know, that's just my sampling and my audience. Since I'm a queer person, you know, I'm sure it's a more queer friendly place, but it's still enough to go, it's probably more than half. It might even be a majority. And I think, I don't remember what the more scientific study was. I know it was more than half.
There's an author that I interviewed. His name is Dr. B.J. Fogg. He is the author of Tiny Habits. And as a matter of fact, Instagram was created in his classroom. The originator.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, he's a really cool guy.
That's cool.
I'll send you his interview, but he's fascinating.
Yeah.
I'm going to send him this interview.
Okay, cool.
Yes, I think, and I don't know if he would be interested in not, but it's like, oh, I hope he is interested, because if there was someone to do that study, maybe he would be the right person because he's brilliant.
Oh,
and
it would be good to have an updated data. Yeah.
Yes. You know, like, I mean, he is a, you know, a scientific kind of guy. He does studies.
Yeah, because mine's not science. Right, Twitter's not science.
Right. He is at Stanford. He's brilliant and delightful. You know, brilliant and delightful, you know, what a great combination, right? So I'm just hoping maybe he will do it. He's fascinating and cool. And you're fascinating and cool.
Oh,
so
gosh.
We'll see. We will see how it all shakes out. But I can't wait. I can't wait for the results. Now, let's talk about your Twitter following and your YouTube channel and what's going on with all that, because it's really big. What's going on? You're putting out a poll and you're getting thousands of people to answer.
Twitter's been where I started out. Twitter, because I'm someone who, even though I get up here and do these things where we go back and forth, text and typing and writing is always easier to me. It's always more natural because I have time to like really organize all of my thoughts and get them in order, because, you know, you can see I'm all over the place and lots of ideas come all at once. And it's like, it can be overwhelming to the brain. And so if I'm on Twitter, I can keep myself steering in a good direction, and it's very organized and linear. or like on social media, like on YouTube, like it's like I've written something, I've thought it over, or I've got the bullet points to keep me from doing these fun things that you get to chase me around for on these interviews. But it's been a medium that lets me put the message out there,
Yeah.
because it's the back and forths that are harder for me as an autistic person. Like I'm
Okay.
really good at dumping information and running, or talking about things I'm interested in, but I talk all over people. You've probably noticed. I don't mean to do it. I don't even realize I'm doing it half the time, or I don't know when to stop with a point, and I'll like continue as a loop on it over and over again. I don't even realize I'm doing that either. So it's nice to have that platform where I have like a concise thing where I can like really review it, polish it, get out what I want to say, because in the moment, I feel like there's so much I wanted to say if I would have thought of it, and it all comes later.
Oh, wow. Well, you know what? I am thankful for all of your talents. And I realize you got a two-sided coin, but I I just see them as gifts, you know. I see them as gifts. To go back to your example, if we asked a fish to fly, we would say, boy, that fish doesn't know what he's doing. But since fish are meant to swim, we celebrate them. And so I'm celebrating you because I see you swimming.
Thank
I,
you.
I see you swimming.
Well,
And
that's what we need to do, is celebrate people.
100%. Tell us what your YouTube channel is all about.
Yeah. So on YouTube, and also the same stuff kind of gets shared on my website or Facebook. I do weekly videos, and they're about 10 to 15 minutes long, talking about an autism topic. Usually it's something that someone has maybe put a request for, or it's a question I've got a lot that week, or maybe something in my life will inspire it, and it's like, I dealt with this and this is fresh in my mind, let me go talk about what this is like. Because or I'll read something online about autism and it'll be terribly misinformed, or from the perspective of someone who's not autistic and they totally don't get it what they're talking about, and I'm like, I gotta go correct that lie. So like I'll make a video to like share from an autistic perspective, to kind of help people understand what it's actually like to be an autistic person, instead of reading these narratives that are, because a lot of times it's just very medical, and it only talks about the weaknesses, the weaknesses,
Wow.
where I am both my strengths and my weaknesses equally, the whole person.
100%. 100%. I'm curious, how many people do you think you are impacting between all of your social media? Because it feels like you are impacting a lot of people.
I haven't done a grand tally. It was like 125,000 followers on all platforms, like sometime early in this past year, but I haven't done a tally since. But what I can say is the Facebook page is the biggest platform, and it has about 90,000 followers. But even though only 90,000 people are following, that page reaches 1 million to 3 million people every 28 days. So it reaches a lot further than, but those people aren't following, they aren't sticking around, but it's reaching them. Maybe they just don't hit the follow button. Who knows? So I'm reaching a lot of people, and I got to speak at one organization, and they had 1 million people in their team, and I got to speak to them in a video platform. So that, it's exciting that people are listening, because for a long time, narratives about autistic people weren't by us. They were by our parents and doctors and people who are looking at us from the outside, and we weren't really getting to tell our own stories. And anytime an autistic person gets to be amplified to tell their own story about what being autistic is actually like, I think it's a victory.
100%. Gosh, I'm so thankful. That is what I feel. That is what I feel. I'm thankful that you're getting to tell your story.
Thank you for that.
Absolutely. I'm thankful that you're giving voice to people who might be a little bit shy about the repercussions of sharing their voice. Because this is not, listen, I'm going to say for sure, having a platform does not come without criticism.
Oh God, no.
Mm-hmm. It's like, oh, I see you trying to do something good. Pow, pow, pow. Let me throw some.
Constantly. They don't like the way you're doing it. They want you to do it their way. We have a lot of that, and our community is no different. I guess every community, once it gets to be a certain size, it has those growing pains, and it's that crab mentality that it's like, y'all, this isn't a competition. We really need to be lifting each other up. My ultimate goal is not to have to do this anymore. Like, if I can work myself out a job where I go and the things I make in my YouTube videos, people go, duh, we know that already. Why are you talking about this still? Then I will be able to quit, and it'll be awesome, and I'll go do something else. Like, I'll go roller skate. I don't know. I'm going to do something easy for a while.
You go. There you go. You know what? I'm just going to say, I hope you never lose your voice. And if you're not talking about autism, I hope you're talking about something else.
Thanks. Well, I want to keep writing. I want to keep writing. I love writing, I think, more than anything. I've started speaking because I realized that was a medium I needed to master to be heard, but if I had my way, my blog would have been like an anonymous blog, and it would have been like, you would never see my face. But I know a lot about social media, and I started getting into marketing, and I realized that wasn't going to get the message out there. And it's like, autism has a PR problem. And as a marketing, someone who comes from a marketing background, I'm like, I know marketing. Autism is a PR problem. Let's fix this.
There you go.
So I had to be uncomfortable and get over my stage fright to, do this thing.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much, Lyric. It has been an absolute pleasure having you.
Thank you. Right. It's been a pleasure.
All right, guys. We're wrapping up for today, but I guarantee you that I'll be asking her back, and I hope they say yes. All right. Bye-bye for now.